The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle, where you can access your full potential right now. Finally break free from destructive habits. That dream life, if you want it, you can have it. This is where you transform your health, mind, business, and relationships. Or do nothing and keep your life the way it is. But if you're ready for change, you're in the right place. This is where you're gonna learn how to live a habit-based lifestyle. You are tuning in to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle. Let's go.
I want to roll this out because I think this is a big deal when we're talking about what I'm going to talk about today, which is imposter syndrome. So this is, a lot of times defined as doubting yourself, maybe feeling like a fraud. And a lot of times it keeps us from actually stepping into what we were actually called to do. And I really call this the I'm not qualified cycle. And I want to really break this down for you in a practical way so you can see how you can move through this. Because a lot of times online, what you're seeing on social media today is you're seeing people doing things that you really want to be doing. And so we get motivated. We get motivated to want to do it. But there's this thing that comes up. I got my dog playing back here. So there's this thing that comes up that gets in the way that's oftentimes I'm not qualified or feeling like this imposter. And a lot of times the people that are actually saying this or doing this are actually people who are probably some of the most qualified people that you will ever see to do this. But I want to break this down into a practical form. So I'm going to share my screen and just kind of walk through this with you guys, because I think this is a great way to really see, maybe how you might be showing up in this situation. So number one is always kind of at this top, which, we could say you get this trigger, or someone may trigger you. And what this actually does is, because there's so many people online, it gives us a purpose. And this purpose we have is maybe a desire to start a business, a desire to launch, maybe nutritional programming, or maybe just to go online, launch some type of virtual business. But we get motivated based off of what other people are doing. But oftentimes we see other people with less experience. We see other people that maybe don't have the knowledge we do, but they're actually doing the thing that we actually want to do. And so as you kind of walk through this is a cycle, call it imposter cycle, or call it I'm not good enough, whatever you want to call it. It's still keeping you from doing what you want to do. And so as you walk into this, you often think, man, if I, at this point, like, hey, I got triggered, I got motivated, right? I got motivated to want to live this purpose. Now, the next phase that often comes up is we think, man, I'm not qualified. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I don't have my program built out. And so the first place we go to is immediately thinking that I need to have it all figured out. So in this place, usually we feel like we got to get a logo. We got to get a name. We got to have a funnel. We might need, more coaching or more things like that, whatever it is. Maybe even in this place, we need, our logo, name, funnel, t-shirts, website. We have to have it all figured out, and we have to have it all built out. And so in this cycle, we start thinking of everything that we have to build out. And this is kind of the build out phase of it, right? And so we start thinking, man, I got to have this all figured out before I launch it. And the problem with that is our confidence begins to die down. And so inside of this confidence, we lose confidence because we try to build out the entire program before we launch it. And we tell ourselves, listen, I can't launch this until everything's built out. And as we go back through this on the other side of it, I'm going to walk through this specific thing because a lot of people come into our program. They're like, hey, I really want to launch this coaching business. I really want to launch this online nutrition business or some type of coaching consulting model, maybe even in their own industry. And they have like this great purpose, but they think they have to have it all built out before they actually launch it. And then as they start going through this process, of all the things that people tell you need a funnel, you need a website, you need a name, you need a logo, everything they tell you need, you begin to lose confidence because you just can't think of it right now. And inside of that, it keeps us from getting to the next place. And we eventually have a story that comes up in this place. And this story is usually a story of I am not qualified, or I feel like a fraud, or I feel like what I'm doing is maybe, I can't sell it for real money, or people may not see some value in it. But either way, it's a story. And so in this place, we have to understand a few things. We usually, in this story, we usually convince ourselves that, for some reason, some people, may have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on education. In this place, people may have years of experience or maybe doing it in a brick and mortar business, but now stepping online in this new place, they don't really have the same experience. And so they believe the story that they tell themselves. Hey, I'm not qualified, even though they have tons of experience and tons of education. Or they just tell themselves that story that keeps them playing small, that keeps them from stepping out. And so in this story of I am not qualified, this is where the imposter begins to creep in. And so I know even for me, when I went from, owning 2 personal training facilities to start coaching for 13 years, to start coaching online, I know for a time, even though I'd had experience, even though I'd been doing it, somehow just launching it on my own, I kind of felt like an imposter. And it wasn't because I wasn't qualified. It wasn't because I didn't have the experience. It wasn't because I didn't have all the certifications. It was that I never had been online and focused specifically on that type of business. And so in that newness, that feeling of being an imposter creeped in. And this is often what we see, from the clients that come into our program, is they begin to feel this at a deep level, and it begins to do what we're going to talk about next, which is the next piece. Like when we get this story and we really start believing it, that's when we really start feeling like that imposter. And whether the story is true or not, maybe you do have experience, maybe you don't. Remember the first time you started any business, you probably felt like an imposter. You probably felt like you weren't qualified. You probably felt like you weren't good enough to start it, even though you had a deep desire, even though you may have had the education behind it, even though you may have had the experience. But sometimes when things aren't built out, sometimes when things are new, old stories begin to creep back in. And so this all leads to one thing, and that's simply being paralyzed by fear, paralyzed by, convincing myself I may need more information or another certification. I'm going to need another certification. Thinking of just everything that I got to do before I actually launch, because the previous three things, maybe trying to build it all out, getting in the way of the story of the imposter syndrome. And I need to learn more. I need another certification. All these things lead me to the same place, which is you hiding behind busy work. And hiding behind that busy work doesn't increase your action, doesn't increase your chances of your business actually launching. But this is a vicious cycle where I see a lot of people get into, and they'll go try to learn about funnels, about 5-day challenges, about building a website, about all these other things, about Facebook ads. And the problem is they still have never launched anything. And they're worried about all these things coming up, but it's all leading to the same place. They're all paralyzed. And this keeps people stuck for months and years at a time. And what usually ends up happening is, maybe I get a new certification and I go back through the cycle again, or I learn something new. I learn a 5-day challenge. I get my website, or I get my funnel built. Those all motivate me to go do it again, to go back through the cycle again, to get motivated again, to lean into that purpose again, to begin to think, oh, now I have the key to building it out. When none of this is true, because this is what we do inside of habit-based lifestyle. We've taken the imposter syndrome, or the not good enough cycle, the imposter cycle, and we turn it into a blueprint. Okay. And we teach you the simple formula and identify where you're getting stuck in it. Are you getting stuck in the build out? If you're getting stuck in the build out, well, guess what? You don't have to have it all built out. And the reason why is because if you have your program built out, typically it's being built out for what you think it should be, not necessarily where your clients are going. And so one of the things that happens is we build our program out all the way, but yet as our clients go through our program, go through our coaching, there may be a lot of things that shift. And so I actually think being 1 or 2 weeks ahead of your clients as they go through the first part of your program is a great place to be, because you can now shift things and it makes it a lot easier. The other side of this is that you can do a beta launch, which is what we teach inside of our program. We do a beta launch for usually 8 weeks. This allows you to be a week or two ahead of someone else, but also allows you to change things along the way. And so you may find out that, hey, my agenda is not always the best thing for clients to experience breakthrough or results. One of the things that I think new coaches or new people that go online is, you may have your program, you may have something that you really want to bring to the marketplace. The problem is in order for your clients to achieve breakthrough, it can't always be about your agenda. It can't be about what you want for them. It's about what they are willing to work towards, because a lot of times if we push them too hard, we're pushing them harder than they're willing to push themselves, we get pushback. And other times, if it's my agenda, I'm going to force things on them, which I also don't want to do as a coach, as a trainer, as someone trying to help people get results. And so inside of what we teach in our program, if you're new, you're going to launch something that's 8 weeks. Now, the 8 weeks is to get a good idea of what you really want to build out for your program long-term, but it's really to measure the impact that you're having. It's meant to be there to really change the story that I have to have it all built out. I'm not qualified. I'm an imposter. I'm all these things. And so regardless if your story is true, regardless if you're really not qualified, regardless if you're an imposter, does this story get you what you want regardless? And so we have to get into a place where we change the story that's about getting what we want and telling that story versus just talking about what we don't want. And one of the things that I find is entrepreneurs who are trying to launch businesses, who are trying to go online, who are trying to start a coaching and consulting business, their story that they tell is usually more around what they don't want, not necessarily what they do want. And the story that we tell, regardless, is usually the one that comes true. And so if I'm telling the story, here's what I don't want more than what I do want, that's what I'm going to continue to get. The last piece of this is when we get paralyzed to take action, we actually have to step back and simplify the steps. That just means that we're overwhelmed. We got too many things going on. I got stories creeping in. And so sometimes that blueprint or that program is just taking one simple step to move forward. And if I don't do that, if I don't make a simple step to move forward, I'm going to end up getting paralyzed by action. And in that place, like imagine if I got to build out a whole 8-week program before I launch it, that's, me second guessing myself for probably the next 30 days, and as I do that, I'm losing confidence. And so if there was like, hey, all I have to do to launch this program is have the framework of what I'm doing for the next 8 weeks. That means I got 4 different topics I got to come up with for those 8 weeks. I only got to build out the first 2 weeks of coaching, or at least the framework. And I only really have to do that. And then I just have to launch. That's so much simpler than feeling like you have to go through the whole process. And realizing that overcoming imposter syndrome really comes down to these 4 things, which is not having to have it all built out, having kind of a beta launch cycle where we shorten it up, but we also use the agenda for our clients, not necessarily our agenda. We learn how to change the story, whatever we're telling ourselves. We get clear on what we want versus what we don't want. And we begin to simplify the steps in this process, which means we start thinking of one simple step to move forward instead of having everything figured out as we go. And this is the blueprint that we follow inside of our program, Habit-Based Lifestyle Accelerator. That's why clients come into our program and they get results in 30 days. They get results in the first 60 days, especially when they're building out something brand new they've never done before. This allows them the framework to do that. And so if you guys are watching this or listening to this, this is the way that we teach our clients to overcome this imposter cycle, this not good enough cycle, so that we can get you to launch and move forward. So you're not wasting time, energy, and money running around trying to get certifications, running around trying to figure out a funnel, running around trying to figure out Facebook ads. Because at the end of the day, none of that stuff matters. And you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to figure all that stuff out when none of this that I printed out requires any use of any of those things. And yet we have so many clients come into our program from other coaching programs that have said, hey, my person told me it was just going to take me a while to build up a following. I'm like, well, how long has that been going on? Well, it's been going on a year. Well, how much longer do you have till you actually start seeing the results of it? And so this is why we've been able to be successful in as little as 30 to 60 days when people launch a new coaching business or new coaching model, is because we make it simple. So if you guys have any questions on this, just drop in imposter, or actually drop in blueprint, and we can get into a deeper conversation about what that looks like for you. If you're listening to this, you can always email me, Jesse@habitbasedlifestyle.com. Until next episode, have a great day.
The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse Hughes.